Hi, I'm John Douglas from Jazzhead, and you're listening to Detroit JazzStage.
Hipsters, flipsters, and finger popping daddies. Knock me or loose.
Hello and welcome to the March edition of Detroit JazzStage. My name is Dean Zahutsky, and with me, as always, is my friend and co-host Rodney Reeves. How you doing, Rodney?
Very well, thank you, and we appreciate your listening.
Yes, definitely. This month we're going to be featuring the group Jazzhead. They've had a long life in the city of Detroit, forming in 1996 originally as an acid jazz group, but they've since gone on and found other ways of expressing themselves and reforming their musical direction. Before we get to that, I want to thank our audience for your continued support and downloading our shows. We are now nearing the 80,000 download mark, and we owe it all to you. Your support has actually put us as high as 22 in the music genre podcast directory is listed in iTunes. We can't thank you enough, and we hope that for your continued support, and we will promise to continue to get to you the finest podcasts available, finest quality podcasts available.
Dean, I don't know if you realize it, but we were up to 26 today, and what's so phenomenal, I think, about that is the fact that this month, I know you know about this, we've had an influx of corporations coming in with especially MTV and some different groups and record labels, and VH1 has also got some podcasts out there. So for a jazz podcast like this to compete against on the same stage with MTV and their millions and millions and billions of listeners is really commendable, I think.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. And one other thing to consider is when we put a show out, we will get an initial hit of maybe several thousand downloads over the first couple of days, and that's all the people who are currently subscribed. What's really significant is that throughout the month we maintain an average of 300 to 400 downloads a day. So these are new listeners that are coming aboard and listening to our show, and we think it's absolutely fantastic. We think it's fantastic that we're able to get out to the world, the music, the jazz scene as it happens in Detroit, let the world experience the jazz musicians, the quality of music that we have available here for you all to hear.
Sure, and if you are a new listener this month and you might not, let's say, like what you're listening to this month, go back and listen to some past shows. We've got some great things planned, and we try to give a really huge variety of the music here. So if you don't like what you're listening to this month, you might like next month or vice versa.
Oh, yeah. Past shows, we've had Mark Barley on, trumpeter, Paul Keller, his ensemble, bass player. Great lineup of talent that we've been able to present to you. Also, on some other business, I want to remind all of our listeners to go to the Detroit JazzStage homepage, jazzstage.us, and click on the merchandise logo or the merchandise shirt and purchase some merchandise. Your purchasing the merchandise will put a couple of bucks in our pockets to keep the show going, and we'll also give you something in return. Instead of us simply asking you for some money and making a donation and giving the show, you can get something and wear proudly something with the Detroit JazzStage logo on it. So why don't you tell us about Jazzhead, Rodney?
Jazzhead started in 1996, and they started off originally with Jeremy Ellis, who's a pianist, actually now a keyboardist. He's since gone into the electronica fray as a DJ. He goes by the stage name Aero. And his good friend John Arnold is a guitarist. He started out in Jazzhead as well. I think he was one of the founding members. And he also has gone on through many different musical transformations, playing lots of different styles of music. But currently, well, he's doing all the things that he did, I think, but he's also working as an electronica DJ. And he's got a record on Ubiquity, which is an acid jazz. Originally was the acid jazz label out of California. I got turned on to them. They had tons of good groups out, I thought.
Now, John went to Wayne State, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
He did, yeah. He went to school with us in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, he always came across as a great guy and really a good quality musician, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing to stress about this group. They are all accomplished jazz musicians. Lots of times when you hear music of this style, you might wonder, they're probably doing this. A purist might say, well, they're doing this because they can't do anything else. Or, whatever. They're not good enough to play the real thing. But more than a few of these members are playing the straight ahead, the music,
Right. I mean, a lot of people could have said that about Miles when he diverted from his style and said, what the hell is this guy doing? And, these guys, they took a style and ran with it. And, they're, being real musicians, they were certainly able to add an entire dimension to the sound of the quality.
Right. I think the name Jazzhead actually has something to do with the fact that they're not purely pure jazz heads. They're like you'll hear in the interview, one of his first albums was Tutu, and still something that he really enjoys.
Sure.
That being John Douglas.
Well, cool. Well, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go right to the interview. Actually, first we're going to listen to a couple of tunes from their first CD, Jazzhead, The Spirit of Celebration and Baba Da. And then we'll get right to the interview. So enjoy.
Yeah, and when you're listening to that, just keep in mind this is from 1996. So listen to the influences that the group had at that time. And when later on in the show, when you're listening to the other show or the other songs, you might be able to hear a progression in both, influences and perhaps ability.
Yes, definitely.
For this March edition, we're here with Jim Gallard, our new host, as well as Dean Sahutsky again. Say hello, Dean.
How you doing, guys?
And myself, Rodney Reeves. We'd like to introduce to you a group called Jazzhead, and they're led by trumpet player John Douglas. Take it away, Jim.
John, welcome to Detroit JazzStage. We appreciate your dropping by in between sets.
Glad to be here.
And you're a Detroit guy.
Yes, born and raised.
And you came out of one of our fine high schools that produced so many wonderful musicians like Kenny Burrell.
Right.
You know,
Donald Byrd.
And Donald Byrd, right. Cass Technical High School.
That's right.
And could you tell us about the music program over there at Cass Tech? I mean, did you get a lot of your training there, or did you learn about playing jazz in all the wrong places?
Actually, I wasn't in the music program at Cass, even though I was in the band at Cass. I was actually in science and arts. But as far as the program at Cass, because I took at least one class of music per semester that I was there, I got a pretty good look at the department. It was very well run. The instructors really cared, and I filtered all to the students. It was a night and day with the classical program compared to Cody. Cody had a decent marching band on his program, but Cass was just another level.
Cass Tech's always had a reputation for having an outstanding music program, and it goes way back. I remember Eddie Michelli and these guys, they all went to Cass Tech, and this is in the 50s and stuff.
Right. So, yeah, there has been a long tradition and history coming out of Cass Tech. And another thing, I think probably the most impressive thing about Cass Tech was the way the curriculum and the way you select courses was set up. very much like a college, university type of atmosphere. Registering for courses, selecting your teachers, things like that.
So last month, our guest was Urban Transport, and Vince Chandler is from that school, I think, right? Did you know him?
Well, I knew Vince Chandler before Cass Tech. I didn't know that Vince went to Cass. I don't think he went to Cass. I don't think he's.
He did.
He went to Cass? Wow.
He said it in his interview.
How old is he?
I'd say about 30.
Well, he's a couple years younger than me.
Yeah.
I would think I would know Vince if at Cass, but I would say that I knew Vince from when we were like young in the music program. So I met Vince when I was like 12, 13. In our music programs.
What kind of program?
Like summer youth programs. It would be run by Kim Weston. Who were some of the people? Francisco Mora was one of the instructors. Donald Walden. Well, just on that caliber of musician, or Teddy Harris, that was where I met him, and other cats like James Carter, we were like 12, 13 at that age.
It's interesting, you mentioned Teddy Harris and Donald Walden, and another part of the Detroit tradition is older musicians showing younger musicians. And Detroit's been blessed with having many fine teachers both within and outside of a normal school curriculum, like Kenny Burrell, of course, and Barry Harris. And Teddy Harris, who is not related to Barry and maybe is better known to our listeners, was a music director at Motown Records, and he was out on the road with the Supremes and countless other bands performing functions of as arranger and music copyist and band leader as necessary. But Teddy also led an excellent series of bands in Detroit, first the Jazz Hand Orchestra in the 1970s, and then he formed his New Breed Bebop Society Orchestra, through which passed many, many fine musicians. And how did you, what was your interaction with Teddy? Were you in one of these bands? Or?
I wasn't in the Bebop Society, and I was just in some youth programs that he was the head or under the umbrella of his tutorship. Mm-hmm. So maybe he was in charge of the horns and jazz department.
And was this how you learned how to play? Trumpet was your first instrument?
Yes, trumpet. Well, that's where I really first got introduced to jazz and fell in love with the idea of playing jazz and trying to figure it out. And Teddy was instrumental in some of the early criticism and encouragement and advice that I would need to make proper decisions about what I listened to. If I want to play jazz, I have to listen to it. It seems so simple, but I wasn't listening to it, so there would be a gap. So he was the person who pointed things out like that to me.
Who were you listening to, actually? Or who did he tell you should listen to?
Well, he told me to listen to Miles Davis. And, I was like, okay, so I went to the store, and we were buying tapes at the time, so I went and I was like, okay, Miles Davis. I went right up, he was right on the first D's. First album, Miles Davis. I said, okay, this is Miles Davis. Went, bought it, put it in my car. I was like, this is great. I love it. So I went. Next week, I saw Teddy. I was like, Teddy, man, you were right. I went and bought some Miles Davis, and it was the best. He was like, oh, yeah, what'd you get? What'd you get? I said, I got Tutu. He was like, oh, man, that's garbage. And he didn't say garbage either. But this is podcast, so I can say it now.
You can say it.
Yeah, I can say it. He told me. I was like, oh, okay. So I went back to the drum board. But I really liked Tutu. That was the first album I bought.
Well, that's interesting because there's this fundamental split among jazz aficionados, where the purists tend to like his. They kind of stopped listening to him right after the quintet with Wayne and Herbie, and the many younger people and those who are not particularly disposed to listen to jazz pick up at that point, and that's where I listened to Miles. First heard him was the Bitches Brew. That's what really one of the things that got me into jazz was listening to Bitches Brew, and that helped propel me further into the whole idiom. Now, did that same thing happen to you, John? I mean, once you heard tutu, did it give you any impetus to go further back in time, or did you move in a different direction?
Well, I went all the way back in time because Teddy informed me that I hadn't gone back far enough. So I went all the way back to Louis Armstrong and started from the beginning, that's pretty much how I went. So I went back front in history.
So tutu is a good transition period, actually, and a good way to transition to what you created with the group in '96. That was when you started, right?
Yes, Jazzhead. Yep, that was around the time we got together towards the end of that year, and there were a bunch of things going on at that time. Like I was basically playing down at Burt's maybe 2 to 3 nights a week at that time with different bands, from the John Douglas Quintet to Trent Mitchell, Ritual, and actually the first get together for Jazzhead was at a Trent Mitchell Ritual rehearsal at Merrick's Lounge, where John Arnold and his girlfriend at that time came down to one of our band rehearsals, and that's when synergy and everything kicked off to put the band together.
In 1996, there was a wonderful synergy that was going around that was really involving jazz music and jazz musicians as well as other styles. I see it as really 3 different things going on at the same time, and I want to see how you can react to that and how it affected your playing, if at all. The first thing was jazz musicians, people like Martin Medeski and Wood and Charlie Hunter, Branford Marsalis, acid jazz singing was doing. The second thing I see is the DJ scene. Back at that time, they were really going back into the record piles, and they were uncovering all that rare groove stuff and putting it out. People like Giles Peterson, who's one of my favorites from England, of course, the UK. And then there were also non-jazz groups. There were people like the brand new Heavies and Jamiroquai, the Repercussions, and lots of groups like that I was into, and as well as an interest into other 70s styles like funk, like especially P-Funk at that time. So now, how was all this affecting you, or maybe it wasn't at all, but how was it affecting you in the creation of this group and the style you chose to play?
Well, I already said that the first jazz album I bought was Tutu, and I loved it. And most people don't consider that jazz, even though I do. If I had to call it something, that's what I would call it. But as far as that era and the different things that were going on, I was very happy about live music, even in the hip hop arena, which I was listening to when Teddy told me I needed to listen to some real music, Yeah, but other than that, just being aware of the different influences and things going on around. One of the things that we did consciously was to try to incorporate DJs into the band setting. So just say if we have a gig, 3 sets, the DJ might start off the night, we play, DJ plays, stagger like that. So involving the DJ into
some of the DJs
process.
We found that a lot of the people that listen, or many of the listeners of this program, really not only love jazz from Detroit, but they also love techno music and the DJ scene as well. So a lot of our listeners will know some of these names. So could you kind of let us know some of the people that you have played with, DJs?
Well, yeah, some of the I guess prominent DJs. I played the North Sea Jazz Festival with Carl Craig, and that was a tribute to Sun Ra with Francisco Moore and Marshall Allen from the orchestra. Jazzhead went to Europe with Theo Parrish. That was a year and a half ago. Amsterdam.
Who was in the group at that time?
On drums, Ken Scott. He's on
the album. That's Ken. I don't know him at all.
Actually, there are 2 drummers on the album: Ken Scott and Rick Beamon. So
those guys. Who's playing on the recent material from WDET?
That's Ken Scott. Yeah, so very accomplished player.
Yeah, you can hear that in the straight ahead thing, especially. His cymbal work is really nice. Their hi-hat.
Right. Yeah, he's his skill set is superior. He's a tremendous drummer. So.
Where do you get the material that you play mainly? It's all originals?
I wouldn't say all originals, but I guess the way if there was a formula to talk about how Jazzhead, how we write tunes or how we develop tunes. If we have a cover, we'll try to first learn the cover and then try to internalize it and, play a different groove over the solo, maintain the changes maybe. And then from developing a groove to solo over, maybe take that groove and play the melody over that, maybe work backwards. It's just however it worked out,
So it sounds like this isn't composing in the traditional sense, and
Right.
that you're laying down different rhythms or different grooves and then improvising over the top of them.
Sometimes. No, sometimes, I'll just write the whole melody and everything. And I pretty much give people, because I trust their musicianship, the leeway to interpret what I give them however they would do it. Because I figure if you're a bass player, you're going to play bass better than me. Or if you're a keyboard player, you can interpret this stuff better than me. Drummer, guitar, same thing. So I just, present a skeleton. It's very specific things I want to happen. Like if I want the drummer to play a particular phrase at a particular time, I'll specify that. But other than that,
Well, on the subject of some of your tunes on your CD ancestors, you have some interesting names for some of the tunes, if nothing else, like Hailstorm and Top of the Food Chain. Why don't you tell us something about those two tunes?
Okay, Hailstorm, I made that name. I came up with that name for another song on the album that Hale wrote.
That's what I thought.
But Hale already named his song, so I remember the name and I just called it the first song because I was like, oh yeah, this can be Hailstorm, I guess. So, but I'm really terrible at naming tunes. So all the stupid names are probably mine, like Ghost of a Lion. What's that about? At like 10 minutes after it went in print, I was like, what did I do? But Top of the Food Chain, Trent Mitchell, the bass player, wrote that and named it Candle Bath. He named that as well. So.
Yeah, Candle Bath is my favorite of all the tunes. Philip Hale, who's I know both him and his brother quite well. Philip's a wonderful person, but I like his forward thinking. He's definitely, I've seen him do the straight ahead thing with a mohawk, sitting there on stage at Bert's, sticking out like a sore thumb, but sounding great. He always has an edge to his playing, but his pop playing, or his, is great too. And the playing on that particular tune you're talking about, Candle Bath, it's his first solo. He takes two solos on that song. And the first one is reminiscent of Summer Madness by Cool and the Gang. Got that style down. It's just so tasty. It's really, really well played. And it's so beautiful that I think we should probably take a moment to listen to it.
Sounds like a plan.
Feel the rhythm.
John, when I first heard you play, it was at a now defunct club called the Music Menu in Greektown. That was a really, really good room and a good room for you guys. Did you want to talk about your experience at the Music Menu Cafe and how it helped your band develop? Because you did have a steady gig there for quite a long time, didn't you?
Yes, actually we did. I would say we probably played there almost every night of the week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, like that. So, anytime you play as a unit, and we would also have weekly gigs at Albans, Fifth Avenue, Center Street Pub, so I guess, all of the different venues who supported live music helped in the development of the kind of interaction that we could, write the music and play the music that we wanted without necessarily worrying about how many records it was going to sell. So we can just play and be free and write the kind of music we wanted to write that sounded good and felt good to us.
Right. Whenever I saw you, there were tons and tons of dancers, and people really seemed to follow you around. I mean, you never played to a slow room that I ever saw, but I'm kind of curious if you were ever tempted to add a vocalist.
We used vocalists. I mean, there was vocalists on our last record. We used, or CD, we used Paul Randolph and Kimberly Wright. I'm sure Paul Randolph's my puppy. He's on his own right. But he wrote a nice tune. Sang it and played it.
I saw you guys at the Jazz Festival. You did a Jimi Hendrix cover.
Right.
Who was the guy who came up and sang that? Remember? It was a while ago.
No.
Blues Cat. Okay.
Yeah, and even more recently, we've had a few engagements where a single was required in a time like that. We would use somebody like Sharon Denise. She hasn't recorded with us, but she's a wonderful vocalist from Detroit. Castec as well.
So, two of your founding members, John Arnold and Jeremy Ellis, have now reinvented themselves as some pretty popular DJs. They've got some recordings that are doing quite well. And they're recording on what was the best acid jazz label in the United States, Ubiquity Records out of California. And which I kind of think that's a bit ironic considering you guys were an acid jazz group and two of your guys are now DJs doing electronic music on an old acid jazz label. But anyway, that was really the bag that you were lumped in the beginning. How has your music changed from that point until now? Because we do have recordings from the first incarnation of the band, as well as your 2001 release, and two recent things from the radio. From when was it? 2004,
2005.
2005.
Yeah,
so
late 2005.
So recent recordings, right? So we pretty much have the gamut of what's happened with your group. But maybe you could put it into words yourself how the music's changed.
Well, first of all, I don't necessarily think it's ironic that John and Jeremy got into the DJ thing. I think they both realized an opportunity, with their abilities on their instruments respectively. They saw, maybe, I wouldn't say a lack of musicianship, but, the DJs weren't musicians.
Right.
These guys were musicians,
right,
so
sure.
they were doing and writing music from a very musical perspective. That's why I think that, it sounds, different for something, just, more
right. Well,
difficult.
there are some
challenging
out there like Coop and 07, a few more I can't think of right now. But there are some musical DJs and DJs that are musical now, but so I understand the relationship. But so how has the band changed, or the sound of the band changed since the beginning?
Well, besides personnel, I would say probably the biggest change would be the lack of a saxophone player. It puts more onus on me as opposed to. I guess when two people play a melody, it just sounds fuller. It sounds different. Trumpet and sax, I actually really like that sound, but for economic reasons and other concerns, being a 5-piece.
I would think the harmonies of saxophone with trumpet together sound maybe more like would harken back more to a traditional jazz group. Where when I think about a lot of the groups doing what you guys are doing, just one horn kind of typifies the sound. Maybe it's not necessary to have the two harmonies. I mean, traditional jazz is going to do that. All the great quintets and all, they all did that.
Well, yeah, it was my decision to go to the trumpet. So I was like, hey, let's chill, relax on the saxophones for a while, and that way, it made me play cleaner and focus and more defined ideas, and I like playing that way better. So.
Good. Okay.
If I was going to add a saxophone player, I would look at Alan Barnes, somebody like that.
So hopefully he's listening.
Yeah, Alan.
Well, let's talk about that. Your new inspiration, and my main man, these two other recordings that we have.
Okay. Well, my main man came around first, and that was actually co-written by myself and Ricardo Beamon. Rick Beamon, the drummer, he's on maybe a few of the cuts here. I don't know which ones. I'll have to actually look up the liner notes by this time. But we wrote that together. Thinking around with some changes, melodies and stuff like that. Just came up with that, and it just became a staple. Just a way to just demonstrate some kind of jazz, traditional jazz, bop playing, I guess, or hard bop vibe, I guess. So, and as far as new inspirations, I actually wrote that melody in a bop format, but because I don't, feel the need to tell people how to play their own instruments, this was one of the times where I would play the melody and everybody filled in with their respective skills and instruments. So I had I just threw an alley-oop up there and cats.
It sounds good. The drummer sounds great too.
Yeah, that's Ken Scott, man. He's a tremendous drummer.
On my main man.
My main man and new inspiration.
So hey, when can we expect a new recording from you guys?
Well, pretty soon. I would say we're actually in the process of writing and getting the we have rehearsal spaces and things like that, and things to consider in time if you have families and things like that. So it's not like we're exactly pressed right now to put out a recording so we can sell records and make money. It's not really how we make money these days, I guess.
Can our listeners check in at a website?
Yes. Soon as I update it. I haven't updated it this year yet, so. But I will, I promise.
The show will come out in March, so
hopefully by then. Yeah.
You've got 2 weeks.
So
2 weeks.
tell us our website that we can go to find you at.
Jazzheadjazz.com.
Sounds cool.
John, thank you very much for stopping by our table here in between sets at Detroit JazzStage, and we appreciate your music and we appreciate you, and thanks for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. The podcast is the future.
Sure is,
be a
man.
part of it.
Great. Glad to have you aboard.
All right.
Wow, that was a great interview. We're real lucky to have John Douglas available here at Detroit JazzStage. And also, we're all fortunate to have Jim aboard for his inaugural podcast interview.
Yeah, we're both listeners of Jim for many years, and sitting next to him felt more like we were listening to the radio than actually doing an interview.
Yeah.
I know. For a while, I just sat back in my chair and I kind of enjoyed the show, and then I realized,
we're part of the show.
Yeah.
Yes, Jim's a great interviewer, and he has years and years of experience, and that's what he brings to the show. He knows how to get information out and turn and twist corners and really get as much out of the interviewee as possible. And we're really, really glad to have him aboard.
Yes, we're fortunate, and so are the listeners.
Definitely. Hey, that's it for this show, and we again thank you for listening. And look forward to you downloading our April show, where we will be featuring Rodney.
Well, no, we won't be featuring me.
We won't be featuring Rodney. He's a real wise guy. No, we'll be featuring Buddy Budson and Ursula Walker.
Ursula's a great singer. She's a wonderful, wonderful person, a great singer, and her husband, Buddy, is also a very accomplished pianist, and I think you'll enjoy both of them. And Ursula will be our first vocalist that we featured, I believe. I don't think we...
Right. No, we haven't had one yet.
Unless you count some of the vocalizing on Pork's show, but...
It's definitely vocalizing, but, it's...
Right.
Yeah, it's vocalizing, and it has as it fits to its particular
style.
Yeah, style.
But yeah, no, she's really, really good. So here we have another couple of legends in the Detroit jazz scene, and you'll enjoy the show as much as we'll enjoy having them.
Take care.
Thanks so much, and we'll see you next month.
Detroit JazzStage is the creation of JazzStage Productions located in Lake Orion, Michigan, and was recorded at Longview Sound, located in Rochester Hills, Michigan. The Detroit JazzStage podcast is powered by Liberated Syndication, podcasting made easy. For information on Liberated Syndication, go to jazzstage.us and click on the Liberated Syndication logo. Our theme songs were written by Mark Byerly. For more information, go to jazzstage.us.
For JazzStage Productions, I'm Dean Zahutsky.
And I'm Rodney Reeves.
The Bagel Factory Cafe, located at 5389 Crooks Road near the I-75 Crooks exit in Troy, Michigan, is where local Detroiters and those visiting from out of town can experience a wonderful assortment of bagel and cream cheese varieties. They can also choose from their many delicious bagel sandwiches made fresh on the spot while you wait. Owner Lori Anderson's store is a comfortable environment where patrons can sit back and relax with a newspaper or cruise the net through the store's wireless network while enjoying their meal. Mention Detroit JazzStage and get a free 16-ounce cup of coffee with the purchase of any bagel and cream cheese combination. We certainly want to thank Lori and the folks at the Bagel Factory Cafe for their support. Go to bagelfactorycafe.com for more information.